For more essay content, be sure to check out Final Girl Digital on Substack, linked below. Hello and welcome back to Final Girl Digital. Greeting you here from the void. Among the pages of Vogue's August 2025 print magazine, you will find a guest advert. Though this advert is different from any of the magazine's previously printed adverts. The advert shows a beautiful blonde model wearing a striped maxi dress and a floral playsuit from Guess's new summer collection. At a moment's glance, one might mistake this model as a real woman. Though the small text at the bottom of the ad reveals the truth. She was created using AI. This marks the first time an AI-generated model has been featured in Vogue, and surely it won't be the last. But what does this say about our ever-shifting culture and digitized beauty standards? In my video essay on the substance, I highlight and coined the phrase, the simulacrum of feminine performance, to explore the way in which the stages of simulacra can be applied to feminine performance and how feminine performance in itself is a simulacrum. The word simulacra was popularized by theorist John Baudrillard in his book Simulacra and Simulation. When explaining simulacra, Baudrillard utilizes the short story on exactitude in science as follows. Let's say you have a territory of land. Afterwards, you create a 1-to-1 scale map and place it exactly over the territory, covering the land entirely in this map. Decades pass and the map remains atop the land, eventually growing worn out. As time passes, it becomes difficult to discern what is the map and what is the original land poking through. Those who were alive before the map was placed upon the land are long since dead, and therefore no one can remember a time without the map, nor decipher where the map ends and the land begins. Eventually, the map becomes the land, at least in the perception of those who know it to be that way. Due to their perception, this is their reality and their truth. The map becomes real, and the original territory and land is forgotten. This is a simulacrum, a copy without an original. The performance of femininity is a sort of simulacrum in itself. It is hard to decipher where the woman ends and femininity begins. We see this in discussions of nature versus nurture, what qualities are inherent to femininity versus learned behaviors that we have come to culturally associate and therefore teach young girls, making them common characteristics prevalent within women and girls. Thus triggering the argument of, for example, are women naturally more nurturing than men, or do we just exist within a culture that instills this belief in girls from the moment they are born? We likewise see the simulacra of femininity prevalent, especially within external beauty standards, where it has become to be seen as feminine is for women to exist in an altered state. For example, for women to exist in their natural state of being unshaven, barefaced, free of makeup, would be to be unfeminine or even masculine, despite this being the natural, unaltered state of women. The simulacrum of feminine performance also manifests in the sensation of not knowing what we genuinely do for ourselves versus what we do because we've been conditioned to perform femininity. This shows up in conversations such as the idea of wearing makeup for oneself. One could argue that they wear makeup when they are alone in their room and therefore they wear makeup for themselves. Independent of any societal influence or expectation, they do it because they feel happy. But one must question why they feel happy with makeup on, because they've been taught their happiness is directly correlated with how pretty they are. Referring back to Baudrillard's map metaphor, women have come to be associated with the map on top of and merged with the land, thus existing within the pressure of simulacra. We can also look at the simulacrum of feminine performance through Berger's theory of gaze, which I know most of you watching are probably familiar with at this point. Berger's theory of gaze sets the initial structure for the simulacrum of feminine performance to exist. Women learn to survey themselves through the imagined eye of others, especially the male gaze. This gaze is still tied to a real-world structure, patriarchal observation. As time goes on, this performative version of femininity gets repeated, commodified, and circulated through media. This creates a cybernetic feedback loop, as inevitably these performances start referencing each other, femininity becomes an echo chamber filled with a series of abstract references. That's where Baudrillard's Simulacra comes in. The performance no longer points back to natural feminine essence, which may have never existed in the first place, but to an endless chain of other performances. Femininity now exists as a copy without an original, a simulacra. Now, you may be asking, okay, so what does this have to do with the AI models in Vogue? And I am getting there, I promise. Baudrillard also coined the term hyperreality, which describes the loss of distinction between reality and simulation. When culture is saturated with these self-referential performances and images, we are in hyperreality. Femininity is experienced primarily as its mediated representations, not as lived reality. The AI models in Vogue represent an acceleration into this hyperreality. They represent moving on to the next stage of simulacra. Not only are these AI models designed as these Frankenstein-esque copies of pre-existing women, they exist as an expression of the so-called feminine without the women to express it. The AI models exist as pure superficial femininity under capitalism. I look at these AI-generated models and I see echoes of real women. In one, I see a mirage of Megan Fox. In another, Irina Shayk. In another, Angelina Jolie. But even so, they have taken the image of these real women who are praised for being the most beautiful women and enhanced their image. They've removed their pores and softened their smile lines. They become an echo of femininity without the spirit of woman. In a world where feminine sexuality is constantly commodified and exploited for the pleasure of others, I am excited to introduce you to the sponsor of today's video, Bellesa. Bellesa is a by women company for all things sexual wellness that prioritizes women's sexual wants and needs in all of their products. Bellesa's mission is to help everyone embrace, explore, and celebrate their sexuality. Some of their products include the Pebble. The Pebble includes suction and vibration controlled independently. The Pebble is ergonomically built to fit perfectly in your hand. The Demi-Wand is another favorite. It works for all body types. The Demi-Wand includes an innovative design and is whisper quiet, so you can enjoy intimate time with yourself without the paranoia of being heard or disrupted. The Demi-Wand is compact, coming in a cute and discreet charging case for easy portability and privacy. It is also 100% waterproof and USB rechargeable. The Demi-Wand also includes a flexible neck, which allows you to give just the right angle and pressure you're after, and like the Pebble, features no annoying pattern modes. And I am excited to announce that my friends at Bellesa and I are giving away free vibrators or gift cards to vibrators for anyone who signs up for the giveaway. The link will be in the description and the pinned top comment, so be sure to click it and check out the giveaway. You don't want to miss out on this. Thank you again to Bellesa for sponsoring this video, and now back to the video. In Theory of the Young Girl, it is written, "The dictatorship of beauty is also the dictatorship of ugliness. It does not signify the brutal hegemony of a certain paradigm of beauty, but rather, more radically, the hegemony of the physical simulacrum as the form of the objectivity of beings. Understood as such, we can see that nothing prevents such a dictatorship from extending over everyone, the beautiful, the ugly, and the indifferent." This passage is essentially stating that the social expectation and pressure to be beautiful under the pressure of capitalistic and consumeristic culture is representative of the detachment from true beauty, especially in reference to womanhood. The cultivation of the superficial feminine was created as a medium in order to sell more products to women. We saw this emphasized in the early 20th century with the emergence of teen culture. And as the years passed, the idea of the young girl as a manufactured vessel and target to be sold to became more prominent. The young girl exists as both a commodity to sell and a vessel to sell commodities to. Our idea of womanhood and girlhood has been co-opted so extensively by consumer culture that we have come to define girlhood almost exclusively in relation to our place within this consumer culture. Girlhood becomes false eyelashes and boy bands and shopping and shoes, except it isn't, but it kind of is. This is the simulacrum of girlhood, which exists in truth of our experience of girlhood, but not at the core of what it means to be a girl. In reference to Baudrillard's map allegory, like the map overtop the land, we have lost the distinction between the real and the illusion. All these things look like girlhood, but it isn't. But it is in our experience and perception of girlhood. The use of AI models in Vogue reinforced the image of femininity as an abstraction, the feminine form as a spectacle in order to sell commerce, the disembodied expression of femininity. In his essay, Otherness Surgery, Baudrillard argues that cosmetic surgery is not about restoring or repairing, but rather about an endless pursuit of otherness, a simulated image of beauty that no longer refers to a real, natural body. Surgery becomes a performance of difference, as Baudrillard describes it, where the individual chases a new identity that is always already artificial. AI models being used in magazines represent the next stage in this pursuit of otherness. Just as plastic surgery produces an otherness detached from the organic body, AI models embody beauty with no biological anchor at all. We take the leap from corrected humans into generated simulations that never had an origin in flesh to begin with, thus fulfilling Baudrillard's idea of simulacrum, a copy without an original. Baudrillard writes, "With modernity, we enter the age of the production of the other. The aim is no longer to kill the other, devour it, seduce it, vie it, love it, or hate it, but in the first instance to produce it. The other no longer an object of passion, but an object of production. Perhaps in its radical otherness or its irreducible singularity, the other has become dangerous or unbearable, and its seductive power has to be exercised. Or perhaps quite simply, otherness and the dual relation progressively disappear with the rise of individual values and the destruction of symbolic ones." The creators of the AI models in Vogue have emphasized the importance of algorithm and digital performance when creating these models. When asked by BBC about the lack of diversity in their AI models, the company's founder, Valentina Gonzalez, states, "Well, we've posted AI images of women with different skin tones, but people do not respond to them. We don't get any traction or likes. At the end of the day, we are a business and use images on Instagram that will create a conversation and bring us clients." What Gonzalez describes here is an exaggerated version of the process magazines and brands already go through, looking at humanity through the lens of algorithmic and commercial performance, though the digital models amplify this. In my video on heroin chic, I mentioned the pendulum swinging from the 2010s, where in the 2010s we witnessed a rise in body positivity movements which led to a push for more diverse models. We are now witnessing a return to the so-called heroin chic type of aesthetic. If these AI models existed within the algorithms of 2015, perhaps a more diverse range of models would gain traction and likes as the consumer demand for diversity was higher. Baudrillard highlights in the Otherness Surgery the way in which the individual body is reworked to meet an ideal external self, which creates a gap between the lived self and one's artificial projection. This shows up in the way that certain features that can be attributed to certain ethnic groups come to be on trend. This was no more prevalent than during the Kardashian era of the 2010s, in which the Kardashians and their followers sought to co-opt Black features through fashion and the intervention of plastic surgery. They wanted the aesthetic of Blackness without the lived experience of Blackness. AI fashion models, again, widen this gap as there is no lived self behind the image at all. The fashion system moved from the altering of bodies to eliminating them entirely. Clothing, beauty, and the human form now exist purely in relation to the algorithmic ideal. Baudrillard describes the way in which the other pursued within plastic surgery is always elusive and fleeting, producing a cycle of continual modification. The ideal feminine is never achieved because it is always shifting and always abstract. AI models can be endlessly remixed, reshaped, and restyled at no cost nor risk. They are, in a sense, the completion of the surgical fantasy, beauty without limitation or decay. Femininity becomes further defined by and manufactured for algorithmic performance. This is slightly different from, or rather a continuation of, the current feminine model, as these AI models can be built from the ground up. These digital women can be created and deleted at rapid speeds. If suddenly it becomes profitable to design AI women with plus-sized figures or darker complexions, they will do so. But these AI women will come without the lived experience of what it means to exist within marginalized bodies outside of the advertisement. And when the tides shift and these bodies are no longer profitable to these companies, these women will be deleted. This increases the nature of planned obsolescence inherent to the feminine. Vogue's use of AI models signals a shift in fashion's symbolic economy. Surgery at least presupposed a subject, someone willing to undergo pain, risk, and transformation. With AI, there is no subject, only data, aesthetic preference, and brand control. This not only reduces beauty to an algorithmic construct, but also displaces models with simulations, raising questions of labor and value. In March 2023, Levi's began testing AI-generated models to ensure more diverse body types and skin tones in its marketing, which of course was met with criticism. Michael Misandu, the CEO and founder of the digital model studio La La Land AI, which partnered with Levi's to create its AI models, defended their choice by stating AI models in fashion is already more widespread than many realize, and that brands of all sizes are simply not disclosing it because there is no legal obligation to. This once again emphasizes the potential simulacrum of imagery which is already happening, where we as consumers are becoming increasingly unaware of what is fake and what is real. One of the first AI models to take off was what came to be known as the AI old money girl. I remember when I first saw photos of this girl on Pinterest, and she reminded me of a combination of the Hollywood sex appeal of Denise Richards combined with the equestrian aristocratic quality of Grace Kelly's granddaughter Charlotte. When you look up the AI old money girl online, you are immediately met not only with the images of this AI-generated simulated girl, but also of various makeup tutorials on how to look like her. This highlights the further deterioration of feminine performance into a series of references. We aren't even referencing real women anymore. We're referencing the simulation of a woman that was algorithmically generated using references of other women. It's interesting because even as I was scrolling through these Instagram pages to analyze them critically for this video, it was hard to ignore the immediate impulse to compare myself to them. My brain immediately begins contrasting what features of mine are similar or different. If these are women that are algorithmically designed to be the epitome of beauty, I can't help but have these invasive thoughts thinking, should I alter myself to look like them? As I scrolled through this Instagram page of hundreds of photos, I kept hearing the thought, maybe I should get lip filler, and questioning how to close the gap between myself and these digitized women. I too aspire to be a copy of a copy, fragmenting and sacrificing my own humanity to be optimized in the digital algorithms. Thank you for joining me in discussing AI models and the progression into an increasingly surreal time period. Let me know what you think about these AI models in Vogue and the increasing use of AI models in general in fashion. Do you think it matters? Do you think we should stop it? Do you think that there should be a legal obligation for brands to communicate to consumers when they are using AI? Let me know down below. Thank you again for joining me today, and I will see you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click the link in the description and visit Final Girl Digital on Substack, where I post original essay content such as my most recent one, the Diet Coke essay, where it's a little bit of a sillier essay analyzing gender performance through the lens of Coke. And extra videos such as monthly media digests, where I talk about the books, art, and media I consumed in the month. See you there! Of course, met with criticism.